When I was coming up to my 100th episode, it was an easy decision to do an interview with Mike Anderson from Collision Advice. After all, he was the one that really inspired me to start down that path of giving back to this industry from my earlier experiences attending his events and presentations, where he always gave incredible value to everyone in the room and shared more wisdom and insight than anyone else in this industry was doing. A few months ago, I was contemplating on what to do for my 200th, and once again, Mike felt like just the perfect choice to help me celebrate this milestone in my podcasting journey. Since our last interview, Mike Anderson's impact on the collision industry has just intensified. His collision advice team has grown to over 20 people. The Spartan 300 group that started very early during COVID has now grown to 6 specific groups, and he started an annual conference event for his Spartans that educates as well as celebrates their successes.
Language whispers truth so clear, tips that drive away the fear. Rick's voice cuts through the noise.
Welcome to the Mind Wrench Podcast with your host, Rick Selover, where minor adjustments produce major improvements in mindset, personal growth, and success. This is the place to be every Monday, where we make small improvements and take positive actions in our business and personal lives that will make a major impact in our success, next level growth, and quality of life.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Mind Wrench Podcast. I'm your host, Rick Selover. Thanks so much for stopping in. If you're a returning listener and haven't done so already, please take a minute and click the follow or subscribe button and then rate and review the show. When you rate and review the show, the algorithms for Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and all the other platforms will see that it's valuable and show it to more people that have never seen it before. And hopefully it can help them too. I would really appreciate your help sharing this word with your friends and family as well. And if you're a brand new listener, welcome. I hope you find something of value here that helps you in your personal or professional life as well. Please make sure to click the subscribe or follow button so you never miss another episode. Welcome to all my collision industry friends, body shop buds, and personal development fans that have been part of my podcast journey, whether just for the past couple of months or the last 4 years. I appreciate every one of you spending some of your precious time with me. It's crazy to think that when I started this in the early part of COVID with zero experience, very little confidence that someone would actually listen to what I had to say, and no idea how I could get past the first couple episodes. But here I am in my 200th episode, now heard in over 95 countries and 2,100 cities across the world, and well received by the top leaders, movers, and shakers in collision industry. I am completely humbled, flattered, extremely grateful, and nowhere near done with this journey. Now, I know in the podcast world, these numbers really aren't substantial. There are many shows that have episodes that number in the thousands with hundreds of thousands of followers and millions of downloads. But that doesn't much matter to me. Would I like the same success with the Mind Wrench? Sure. Absolutely. But that wasn't my focus for doing this. I also know that out of the now 3 or 4 million podcast shows out there, most don't make it past 7 episodes. It's a hell of a lot of work. And without the instant payoff expected, most just give up. My goal wasn't for big numbers. No, it was for impact. I felt if I made a positive impact in someone's life, helped one shop improve their business, made one day better for even just one person, or solved one single problem, then all the work was worth it. That was success enough for me. And let me tell you, friends, on that KPI alone, this show has been very successful. When I was coming up to my 100th episode, it was an easy decision to do an interview with Mike Anderson from Collision Advice. After all, he was the one that really inspired me to start down that path of giving back to this industry from my earlier experiences attending his events and presentations, where he always gave incredible value to everyone in the room and shared more wisdom and insight than anyone else in this industry was doing. A few months ago, I was contemplating on what to do for my 200th, and once again, Mike felt like just the perfect choice to help me celebrate this milestone in my podcasting journey. Since our last interview, Mike Anderson's impact on the collision industry has just intensified. His collision advice team has grown to over 20 people. The Spartan 300 group that started very early during COVID has now grown to 6 specific groups, and he started an annual conference event for his Spartans that educates as well as celebrates their successes. We recorded this interview well before the 2025 Spartan Symposium that was held in Minneapolis this past April, where I was fortunate enough to host the vendor table for Garmat USA and attended this outstanding event. I'm telling you, the love, the respect, the support Mike showed to not only his members and his team, but even the vendors and suppliers that supported this conference was really just an awesome experience. Just simply incredible. I was so honored to be part of it. Anyways, let's get to that interview with Mike Anderson. Recently, I had the opportunity to attend the AASP in Illinois Overdrive in 25 trade show and conference. And my special guest today not only shared the keynote opening speech, but also followed up with moderating not one, but two separate panels through the course of the day. My guest this week is, and now fellow podcaster, has been hitting the road really hard so far in 2025, impacting and sharing with the collision industry from coast to coast. We first met back probably around 2010, Mike, I believe, when he spoke at Washington Community College. And at the time, I was a part-time refinish instructor there. And then later at several different training events that the company I worked for had hosted, we kind of struck up a friendship, and I've seen him so many times over the years. We've become good friends, and we both share a passion for doing what we can to help this collision industry. So please join me in welcoming the industry icon, the guy that everybody knows and loves, good friend of mine, Mike Anderson from Collision Advice, back to the Mind Wrench Podcast. Mike, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Rick. Thanks for the kind words, but back at you, brother. It's an honor and a privilege to just speak with you and all of your listeners. So thank you so much.
You got it. Glad to have you back on here. So I will, I'll take the opportunity to say that for those that have followed the podcast, back when I did my 100th episode, I had it in my mind I wanted to have Mike Anderson on for my guest for my 100th, which we did. It was a great conversation. And I'm coming up on my 200th, so naturally I thought I got to have Mike back for number 200. So,
congratulations! That's a pretty incredible accomplishment, Rick.
And it's all part time, right? So I've been working my whole career, but it's something that I really love doing. I got a passion for it, and glad to be hitting 200. And God willing, I'll be here for 300, maybe even 400. We'll see. So,
amen.
I'll be tapping you for those as well. So anyways, Mike was last back, I think it was 2022 when I hit my 100th episode. So we're going to have a good conversation with Mike today. We're going to talk about lots of stuff. I know, Mike, last year you had a really good keynote that I know every year you seem to pick like a theme for the year, right?
Correct.
And last year you had success today, success tomorrow. And I'd seen that at a couple different places. We cross our paths in a lot of industry events. By the way, great job at AASP on
Thank you.
Not only the keynote, which is one I hadn't heard about. That was parts best practices, which was really good, really informative, I thought. And then he had two panel discussions with pipeline, which is, that's everybody's talking about pipeline for talent, and consumer advocacy. So great subjects, great job moderating those two groups. It was fantastic. And you had everybody's attention, right?
Thank you.
So let's talk about what's your 2025 keynote, what your theme is for 2025.
Yeah, so my theme for 2025, and again, Rick, I just can't thank you enough, man. Mad love and respect for you, brother. You do a lot of stuff. I know this podcast you do is a volunteer effort. So, thanks for giving back to the industry, man. God bless you, brother. So, yeah, every year I pick a theme, and my theme this year is stay humble, stay hungry. I think we have to stay humble, right? It's oftentimes I see, and I gotta admit, I was probably guilty of this in my younger years that, people come into our shop and they're like, hey, I need to file an insurance claim and I got to get 3 estimates, wherever the case may be. And it's very easy for us as estimators to get calloused and not be sensitive to that consumer. Like, you don't need 3 estimates, right? I think we have to stay humble and not get calloused, right? And we have to recognize that when people have a car accident or a vehicle accident, it's a very traumatic event. One of the things I often do in my seminars is I ask people, what emotions do you think that someone's having after an accident? And some of the answers I hear is that people are stressed, they're anxious, they're afraid, they're concerned, right? These are all negative emotions. So I think it's really important that we stay humble and our dealings with the consumer, right? Don't blow them off. Be patient with their questions and just stay humble. I think also we have to stay humble when it comes to writing estimates. And you can't just assume that because you fixed a Honda Accord yesterday or a Chevy Silverado or a Toyota Camry, that you don't need to research the procedures again today. Things change. And we have to stay humble and continue to stay hungry and continue to want to delve into the OEM repair procedures, which is like the holy grail for how to perform safe and proper repairs, and stay hungry in regards to our thirst for knowledge. So stay humble, stay hungry. I think we're seeing claims count decline. Not as many accident claims. So you got to stay hungry. You got to follow up on those unscheduled estimates. We have to stay hungry and start marketing our businesses more, right? So we stay busy. Stay hungry in the fact that, they say if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I'm saying if it's not broke, break it, right? Try something new. Stay hungry and continue to search to improve your processes. So stay humble, stay hungry.
Yeah, no, great topic and great points made, Mike. I will echo those sentiments that, I've been in this industry a long time like you. I've seen a lot. And as we can get comfortable, right? We can get, hey, I'm doing really good. I don't really need to do this, or I don't need to change that. Everything seems to be working great right now. And that's the best time to really go, okay, what can I improve on? How can I move the ball forward a couple more yards, right?
Yes.
And we had a huge glut of work, which everybody enjoyed post COVID, right? It was like the wild, wild west, man. Everybody had 2-3 month backlogs. Well, that's all gone away now. We're back to reality. And people are driving probably a little bit better than they did post COVID, and collision claims are down. So yeah, we need to tighten up on what we're doing. We also need to adjust to everything has changed within the collision industry. Everything on a vehicle has changed. Just in 2 years, it changes drastically, right? The technology, the processes on how to do things, and along with that, this industry has been changing, but not at a rapid enough pace, I think, to keep up with technology. So that is a great keynote subject, and I think it's going to be fantastic this year. I think everybody needs that this year. I'm looking forward to attending a couple of your speeches along the way. I'm sure I'll be at enough events this year. So something else I wanted to talk about was, something you've been doing in the back. It's kind of in the background because I don't think everybody really realizes what you're doing and how much work it is. But your Who Pays for What surveys. You've been doing that for a long time, and it's not like just one survey where you ask about all the stuff. You broke it down into 4 separate surveys for scanning and calibration, for paint, for body, for frame. And it's tell me a little bit about, number one, why did you start that, and how do you think that's impacted the industry so far? If you're looking for a competitive edge for your business or a more effective jumpstart to your personal development, I'll make your first step super simple. It is a fact that an incredible number of the most successful business owners, nearly half of the Fortune 500 companies, top-earning professional athletes, entertainers, and industry leaders like Microsoft's Bill Gates, former President Bill Clinton, Oprah Winfrey, Richard Branson, Amazon's Jeff Bezos, and Salesforce Mark Benioff all have one thing in common. They all have at least one coach, and some have several, that they work with on a consistent basis. Someone that helps guide, mentor, and support them, challenge them, help them set and achieve goals that move them forward, and then hold them accountable to follow through, driving personal and professional growth. Working with a coach has many substantial benefits. Just for an example, 80% of coaching clients report improved self-esteem or self-confidence thanks to coaching. 99% of individuals and companies that hire a coach report being very satisfied, and 96% would do it again. If deep down, you know it's time to make those improvements in your business, your personal life that you've kicked down the road year after year, if you're tired of knowing there's a better version of you waiting to shine, but unsure of how to bring that version to light, if you're tired of wanting to enjoy a more successful business, but not sure how to start, and if you don't want to go another 12 months without better results, but you don't want to go it alone, then take the first step. It's super simple. Sometimes talking to the right person can make all the difference. Go to www.rickselover.com/contact, and I'll set you up with a free consultation call with me to see if one-on-one coaching is right for you.
Yes. So when I owned my shops, Charlie Baker owned a product called Collision Insight, and it was a published, that's how old I am, right? It was back.
I remember that.
And Charlie Baker would send this, you'd get this publication every month. It was 3 or 4 pages called Collision Insights. And once or twice a year, he would do a who pays for what. And he would publish 25 things, and he would survey shops, and you'd fax your answers back to him with a fax machine. Like, how often did insurance companies or third-party payers put on their estimate not included operations? And then, Charlie, quit publishing his publication. That survey quit getting done. So as I got into consulting, I thought back on that. I was like, I really like to take that and do that again like Charlie did it. So I want to credit him with the original idea, but do it a little bit more inclusive. And, I travel on the road, 300 days a year. And so I was meeting all these people and gathering email addresses where people would send to me. And I was like, let me start building a database and do this electronically. But I found there were so many questions I wanted to answer that I was like, I got to break this down into 4 different surveys. So like you said, we do a survey every quarter, every January, April, July, and October. And each survey is very intentional and very specific. Like every January, our survey is on refinished non-included operations, right? And like you said, we do one specific on mechanical, body, and then like miscellaneous operations like sublet markup or scanning, calibrations, etc. And, we currently have about 29,000 people in our database. I want to let you know, and to anybody listening, we do not share our database. So a lot of people might be concerned about taking our surveys, worried that, our database gets shared. We never share our database. And quite candidly, I fund this survey myself. I probably pay about $25,000, $26,000 a year to partner with, the Crash Network and, other sources to help me to compile all the data and review it. But at the end of the day, I don't accept any funding on this because, people have a tendency that, hey, if I sponsor, will you give me your database list? No. Right. So I fund this 100% myself. And, there's been some dispute in the industry that people say, hey, the insurance companies don't pay for anything the customer does. But, understand the spirit of the survey is just understand how often our collision repairers able to get insurance companies to, reimburse them as a line item on an estimate or reimburse the consumer for that matter. And so what's very sad to me is that we only get about 1,000 shops that take our survey, and we email it out to 29,000. Really? So I wish we could get more traction, right? So before COVID, we used to get quite a bit more. So, again, some of the comments we get back from the surveys are people say it creates awareness. Like people are like, I didn't even think I could charge for this. I didn't even know this wasn't included until I saw it on your survey. Some people use it as a training mechanism. So we've got over 200 questions we survey throughout the year. So some people will just take 1 or 2 of those survey items and they'll use it as a training tip every week in their shop. Some people use it as a resource that if an insurance carrier says you're the only one that charges me for that, they can use that to say, hey, I'm not the only one. And one of the other things that we've done to upgrade the survey over the years is that after each question, we also give you a link to a DEG inquiry through the Database Enhancement Gateway that is funded by SCRS and other wonderful vendors. And what we do is we give them a link to where they can see that it's not included to validate our survey responses. And then the other thing we've upgraded this year, and a shout out to SCRS, is that we now, anytime SCRS, how they do their weekly videos, if there's a video that has to do with that specific survey question, we also provide a link to the SCRS video. So we're trying to make it so it's a resource, but I would just encourage more shops to take it. And we also have shops that say, hey, can you add this question? And we add that question, right? We also have some shops that say, hey, this is why I don't do this because, maybe for a valid reason. So it gives us a lot of insights. And I just want to say thank you to all the shops that do participate in the survey. But it's something that I fund myself. I appreciate John Yoswick at the Crash Network for helping me to compile it, him and Chuck. And we're going to continue to do it as long as shops see value in it. But we just wish. The other thing a lot of people aren't aware of is that if we can get over 100 survey responses from one state, we will publish the state results for that state. So we encourage all the trade associations to really help us to, get more responses per state. Other things we also ask is not just not included operations, but we ask people, for example, if you charge for feather prime and block, what's your formula? We ask questions like, do you mark up tow bills? If so, how much? We ask if you have a aluminum certification or European certification, what's your average labor rate on those things? So it's a real robust survey, and I really enjoy doing it, and just I do it just to give back to the industry.
And that's incredible, Mike. And I, for one, appreciate all the work and the effort that goes into that. To me, it just, it's mind-blowing. There's a free resource like that where you provide that information that any shop can go, wow, I've been missing. I didn't realize I could do that. Or
Yeah. And
it shows that there's 25 other people or three other states or five other areas that all get paid to do this thing that I'm doing for free right now.
Yeah, we also publish the results by region, and we also publish the results by DRP versus non-DRP shops. And even if you don't take our survey, let's say that somebody like yourself, Rick, that works for a paint booth distributor, right? Or you work for a paint job or a frame equipment distributor, like Carline or something. You can actually download the results for free from our website. There's no charge to download the results, and they're available free to anyone in the industry. Anybody can go on our website and they can download them as well. So, if you're a distributor or whatever, and we also, anytime anybody reaches out to us and says, hey, can I repurpose this? Can I use this to include in my training? We absolutely make it available to anybody to use in whatever way that they deem necessary.
So with that said, and you said you're getting about 1,000 responses. So for a quarter, 1,000 responses seems so lame for the amount of shops out there. It's unbelievable. Well, I can't say it's unbelievable because I've been dealing in this industry for a lot. I was a distributor for a long time, and I was in a lot of shops, and
Yes.
I understand because they're just consumed with what they do every day, or how fast they can get a car done and get out of there and close the shop up. But do you have any idea what's a better way to get more eyes on this? Because it is such a great resource, and people don't understand that if they haven't heard about it, they don't understand what they're missing. How do we get that message to them?
Yeah, and I apologize for the cough. I'm fighting a bit of
That's
a cold here. So we've wondered if the surveys were too long. They take about 15 to 20 minutes to take. And we've asked people, hey, is the survey too long, right? And if so, then we'll shorten it and minimize the amount of questions. I really don't know. I mean,
Hey, Mike, if they're not 15 minutes, you can sit on a toilet and scroll through social media for 15 minutes.
Amen.
And not even think about it, right? So it's not that it's too long. I know that can't be it. So
right. So, no. So hey, amen on that comment, brother. Right. So at the end of the day, we're just, we just want to get traction, and I'm open to any criticisms, any suggestions people have as to how we can improve it and get traction. We promote it pretty heavily throughout the trade, all the different trade publications, shout out to Auto Body News, Fender Bender, Auto Body Repair News, Body Shop Business. I mean, they all support us, and I'm grateful for all those publications. But I just think we, again, maybe it's just educating shops, like here's the value in it. And again, the more results we get, the more valid the survey results become.
Yeah. I would say if there's a way to, and you've probably tried this before, but the usually the paint and material distributors and the parts distributors, the shops see those people the most, right?
Correct.
Yeah, and they have the greatest potential. And this is something that I tried to do as much as I could when I was a distributor. I saw myself as the vessel to help, shops that are just, head down, working every day, to give them some type of information that might be helpful to them, right? Or some best practices. So I think finding a way to maybe get some of the distributors, some of the parts distributors, some of the tool guys that are in there every single day in these shops, some way to get those people to, hey, make sure you check out the who pays for what surveys. You could pick up, you could pay for your tool bill with me with all the extra money you'll make charging for the things you should be charging.
Yeah, and we also,
for,
another thing we do is we also show the trends, like was the amount of, and again, I got to always try to be politically correct because like some people say the insurance company doesn't pay the bill, the consumer does. But, if the insurance company's put it as a line item on the estimate, we also show did that increase or decrease compared to the prior year? And then I also try to provide commentary and insights as to why I think things might be trending. Like one of the things we're seeing shops start to charge for now is the removal of static on any type of component, not just plastic, but steel or aluminum, right? And the removal of static, because we're seeing that that's something that people are doing much more. So again, I appreciate you giving me the platform on your podcast to even talk about it. So thank you.
Sure. Yeah, there'll be at least 5 people that listen to this. So, it is, no, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Oh, sure, a whole lot more than that, brother.
It should be a whole lot more than that. But no, that's part of the reason why I wanted to have you on. It's just because I feel that one particular thing is such a great resource. And if I was a shop owner, regardless of where I was at performance-wise and, in my business and all that, I would be looking at that stuff. I'd be combing through all those articles and all those informational opportunities to go, hey, this is one little way to do better in my shop. This is one way my shops are going to make more, or my technicians will make more money. The shop will be more productive. There's so many advantages to that. And for me, it's a crime that there's shops that will know about this and not participate in the survey. I'm doing good enough. I'm too busy. Everybody's got 15 minutes, like I said.
Yeah.
So I want to
Yeah,
drive.
I feel like I'm that Geico commercial in 15 minutes or less. We can
Exactly.
figure out, right?
Anyways, well, thanks for sharing that. I appreciate
Yes,
it.
sir.
And like I said, I'll offer it to all the listeners. Listen, if you have a suggestion on how to get this out to more people, how to improve it, how to make it more accessible, whatever, feel free to reach out to me either through the podcast or through my social media sites, through the Collision Mastermind Facebook group, whatever, or directly to Mike at Collision Advice. Please let us know how to make this better, how to make it more accessible, because I think it's a jewel that I hate to see Mike get to that point and goes, listen, I'm only getting 100 people that are actually doing the survey. I'm not going to waste my time and money anymore. I don't want to see that ever happen. So please try to help out, right? It helps the whole industry. Right?
Thank you.
All right. Something else that's important that you do that I don't see anybody else really doing is your Spartan 300.
Yes.
Which it's just phenomenal. I've seen some of the results. I know a lot of the shops that are in there. But for those that haven't heard about what that is, could you just kind of give us an overlay of what that is?
Sure, yes. So, when I had my shops, I was in a 20 group, and I found that 20 group helped me to benchmark myself with my peers and also stay on the front edge of what was happening in the industry. And even when I owned my shops at that time, DuPont, which became Axalta, asked me if I would actually facilitate 20 groups for them and called business councils. And so I did 20 groups for DuPont/Axalta for well over 25 years, because I did that even when I had my shops before I started Collision Advice. And then as I started working with more OEMs, because we at Collision Advice now do training on behalf of several OEMs, we recognized that we needed to kind of become paint neutral. And so, we had a great run with Axalta, and I thank them for the way they treated me and the opportunities they afforded me. But we decided we just needed to kind of become paint neutral. So we quit doing 20 groups for Axalta. And I kind of like, you ever see the movie Jerry Maguire with Tom Cruise, and he kind of has this epiphany in the middle of the night, and he writes this like document, and he goes in his office and grabs his goldfish. Well, I kind of had one of those nights in the middle of COVID. And what I did is I said, there's a lot of shops that, number one, they're competing with MSOs. They're wondering, should I sell? Do I have a chance? There's a lot of shops that I felt were OEM certified that really weren't networking with other OEM certified shops. And I just felt like those shops needed a place where they could network with other people in a productive manner. So I kind of had this thing in the middle of the night, and I said, I want to start my own 20 groups, and I want to start it for shops that are OEM certified and OEM focused, right? And I'm not going to be, it's not like we're an MSO. We're not an MSO. We're just a coaching training company. But I just want a place that like-minded individuals could get together and exchange great ideas. And so I was watching this movie, The Spartans, and I was like, wow, those guys are pretty bad to the bone. And I didn't watch the whole movie. Excuse me. So I said, man, I'm going to call this group the Spartan 300s. Well, my team then informed me that the Spartans lose the war in the end. I'm like, oh crap, I guess I should have watched the end of the movie. So I was like, you know what, we'll just say we're Spartans and we're going to change the course of history. So actually in the middle of COVID, I called about 30 shops that I knew and said, hey, I know nobody's meeting during COVID, but would you like to have a meeting in Atlanta, Georgia? We'll all wear masks. We're going to sit really far apart from each other. And let's just get together, because everybody was frustrated with COVID. And some shops said, yeah, let's do it. And that's when the Spartans were born. So now we're up to 6 Spartan groups. We have about 200 shops that we work with. And so what it is we have Spartan Alpha, which is shops that are mostly European shops. That means they mostly fix high-end European vehicles. We have Spartan BMW, which is shops that are BMW certified. We have Spartan Bravo, which is shops that mostly do domestic and Asian vehicles. Spartan Charlie does mostly domestic and Asian vehicles. Spartan Delta, which is people that want to grow and end up being like an MSO. And then Spartan Toyota Lexus, which are shops that, have like Toyota Lexus certification. We're up to 6 groups, and we meet on a quarterly basis. Once a year, we have a big symposium, like a big event for all of our groups to come in together, because those groups meet individually. And that meeting, our big symposium, is actually every April. So it's coming up soon, and we have OEMs there as guest speakers and et cetera. And then we also do coaching calls once a week with the clients, and they have an accountability partner. So let's say you and I both were Porsche certified. We'll do a joint call, and we'll benchmark our metrics like on Porsches. We do financial reviews twice a month. We also have a dashboard we built. Shout out to Claims Corp with Brandon and CCI and his team. And they built a really good dashboard for us where we can benchmark average severity, average body labor hours, paid labor hours by OEM type. And it's really just grown. And so, at the end of the day, we don't do contracts. So it's month to month. There's no contracts as I know other companies do that. And we just wanted a way, really, it was just something I had in the middle of the night, like my Jerry Maguire, Tom Cruise movement. And it's grown from 1 into 6 shops. And we've got some amazing men and women in there. We got, K&M Collision, Michael and Kyle Bradshaw, which I would tell you, if I had to talk about the best shops I've ever seen in my entire career, they're on there. We got Tim Papp, another guy that's just stand-up quality. We have Dean Massinemi and his son, Dean Jr., and Dan at Autotech. I mean, and again, I don't want to be remiss if I miss somebody's name because there's too many shops. But and listen, we understand that not everybody in our 20 group is doing a perfect repair, but we want them to have the intent that they want to get better. So to be a Spartan, you have to have at least one OEM certification. If you don't have an OEM certification, we'll help you to get one. You must be ICAR Gold Class. And number 3 is you must agree that you're only going to scan vehicles with OEM scan tools or approved devices. I'll be candid with you. I found out there was a client that wasn't using an OEM scan, something aftermarket. And what we did is we actually removed them from our group because we want people to stand for something. They must set up and perform destructive test welds. So we're really focused on quality. And again, I know not everybody's perfect, but the goal is, do they have the intent to get better? So I got to tell you, it's been an amazing journey, and I love it. And people say, well, Mike, how do you do that if it's just you? Well, the other thing, Rick, a lot of people don't realize is Collision Advice is not just Mike Anderson. Right. We actually have 20 people on our team now. We're growing.
20 people. Wow, that's grown a lot.
Yeah. So we've got Jeff Oldennettle, Danny Gredenberg, also from the DG, Stephen Cripes, and they're like our estimating gurus. And then we have Maria Quintero and Robin Reed, Cheryl Driggers, and Noah, who are like financial gurus. They know CCC and QuickBooks and BusinessWorks, Nexius, Inside Out. Then we have Cheryl Driggers, who's extraordinary on the customer experience and customer service training. So we've got other coaches as well, Sherelle and Rachel. And so our team has really grown where we have actually specialized coaches. And so when we're doing our coaching calls, on a weekly basis, we coach to whatever their need is and where we see their improvement at. So I'm not very good at self-promoting, but I hope that gives some insights on Spartans. And we're just trying to give place to people. And again, we're not an MSO because a lot of people think we are. We're not. We're just a coaching training group giving people. And there's people that belong to our 20 group that also still belong to a Paint 20 group, right? So, you can belong to another one. But, the other thing is we run really hard. Our meetings are from 7 in the morning till 7 at night. 2 days back to back, we'll meet in person. So we're not golfing and all that other stuff. We're there to put the work in. And it's really big about accountability and just being dedicated to raise the bar of the industry. And I get to work with some amazing men and women.
Oh, that's incredible. Yeah. And in fact, I know you mentioned it's not an MSO, but you even have some of these smaller mid-tier MSOs as they're also Spartan members as well. So these guys are at that level, but they're OEM centric and they meet the criteria for being a Spartan. And they see that advantage of being part of a bigger mind, right? Part of that. So that's awesome.
Yeah. So you kind of bring up a comment, is that, I've had over 280 of my clients sold in the last 4 years, over 280, right? That's a lot. And when they sold, it's not because we weren't doing a good job. It's probably because we helped them to be very successful. They grew from 1 store to 4 stores and they sold for, 15, 25 million, right? So I'm happy for them. But I got to tell you, when some of these clients sold, it actually, I was actually hurt, because you get emotionally invested in people, right? Sure. And then when they sold, I was a bit oh man, but then I had to reframe my thinking, Rick. And I said, it's kind of like a sports coach, right? Every year your seniors graduate. And now I got to go find those new freshmen and help them to become the starting quarterback and the future NFL, draft pick of the future. So now I've just embraced my people that sell. I'm happy for them, etc. And so now it's who's doing $1 million a year that wants to get to 3 million? Who's doing 3 million and wants to get to 5 million? Or who has 1 store that wants to get to 2? Or who has 2 that wants to get to 4? And we're just really looking to help people grow. We've got Doug Martin and his team out in Indiana. So proud of Doug. He's grown from 1 store to 4 stores. We've got the Belize Automotive Group up in Rhode Island, they've grown. Deal Automotive Group, they've grown. We got K-Steps in Ohio and Perfection. Perfection's grown from 1 store to 3 stores. K-Steps gone from 1 to 2. And so, helping them to also understand how to grow and what to do in order to grow. Like, how do you do a pro forma? How do you run a UCC report that if you're going to buy a business, you make sure there's no liens? What's the right equipment to get? Should I, get a Garmat spray booth, right? So
Yes.
at the end of the day, right? So we're just there trying to help people to grow, right? And, I don't think this is a doom and gloom industry. I think it's very exciting. And right now, my goal is to help people to grow.
No, and it's awesome. The things that you're doing, I look at it from a perspective of, there's a lot of shops out there that probably won't get to that point where they can join. There isn't, it takes a certain level of shop, a certain level of ownership, and they're not all like that, right? But the cool thing is it's, the tide raises all ships, right?
Yes.
So by these people getting that good at what they do and being that educated and growing, I think it helps the whole industry, right? Because now the bar has been set higher. The value of a repair, the type of repairs that you do, that keeps raising. And when other people can look up to their peers, maybe it's the 3 guys that they're they're buddies with down the street that own a shop, but they're part of your group and they see them growing, that's going to inspire them to go, hey, maybe I could do things a little better. What is he doing down there? And if the more information we're sharing with each other, I think it's got nothing to do with competition. I think it helps all of us. So
Yes.
I love the fact of what you're doing, and I hope that Spartan goes to 600 or 800 or 1,000, right?
Amen. And and I gotta be remiss if I didn't give a shout out and a credit to my team. I've got such an amazing team. My 2 business partners, Tracy and Tiffany. I just couldn't do it without them. I mean, the only way I can travel and do the things I do is because I have a great team that's back home. Just keeping everything in order. And my heart just is so overflowing with gratitude, Rick, for just all the people in my life that have supported me, much like yourself. So thank you for your friendship and support.
Sure, absolutely. And yeah, Cheryl and Tiffany, they're just outstanding people. We deal with them a lot, and I've dealt with them a lot over the years. And just
I don't know, have you ever had Cheryl on any of your podcasts? She got to co-write a book. She got to co-write a book with Chris Voss, the FBI negotiator.
Oh yeah, the
Never Split the Difference.
Never Split the Difference. Yep.
She just co-wrote a book with him. You should have her on your podcast. And also, there's a book called The 5 Languages of Appreciation and the 5 Love Languages. And Cheryl just got certified by Dr. Paul White to actually teach that content and apply it to the collision repair industry. So she's like a famous book author, and so excited for her as well. And she's incredible.
Tell her I'll be calling her soon, Mike.
Amen.
That's awesome. I believe I'll probably see you at the symposium as well. I think we're going to be there for that. So
great. We can't wait for you to be there.
Yep. So speaking of podcasts, you started something new this year. I'm like, gotta be kidding. Mike's going to do a podcast? How's he going to find time for that? So tell us a little bit about
that's what everybody else said. How's he going to find time for that?
That's why it's on the road, right?
Yes.
So share with us what's going on.
So, I've been very fortunate to be invited as a guest on people's podcasts, such as yourself, and I'm very grateful for that. And a lot of people just kept telling me, Mike, why don't you start a podcast? And I was like, I travel all the time. So I was like, man, I just don't know. So what I did is I decided, you know what, I'm just going to try it, right? And I said, but I'm only going to do it and continue to do it if I get a lot of people that, attend, because it's done live. So my podcast is live. Right. So I decided to call it On the Road with Mike Anderson, serving up some collision advice. And my goal is that as I travel around the country, I see some really cool things, Rick. I go into shops. I'm like, oh my gosh, I wish everybody could see this. I'm like, why don't I just start doing this live from the different shops and places I go so people can see what's out there and expose them to it, right? And so, as you know, I write for Auto Body News, and they've been a great supporter of me. And so I went to them and they said, hey, we're all in. We'll help you to market it and help you to figure out all the technical stuff. And then my teammate, Tracy Dombrowski, who's just amazing, she said she'd help me with it. So we did our very first one, I guess 3 weeks ago was my very first one. It was done live. I think we had, don't quote me on this, I think we had almost 400 people watch it live.
Nice.
And I think right now it's got about 2.9 thousand views on YouTube, and you can watch it live through Facebook, YouTube, all these different channels, and I don't even know what they're called. And so our first one we did was showing what the average severity was by state and the average body, frame, paint, mechanical labor hours by state. And Rhode Island had the highest severity in 2024, $6,900. So what we did is we had Randy Batella from Reliable Collision in Rhode Island, who's the president of the Rhode Island Auto Body Association. And he was on our podcast to share about the legislation they passed. For example, all OEM parts for the first 6 years. And it's just an amazing law. And it went really, really well. So our next podcast is March 10th. And I'm going to be doing it live from Wallace Collision, which is owned by John Baker and his family in Bristol, Tennessee. And we're going to be doing it live from his shop, talking about safety inspections, like, the importance of measuring steering columns and inspecting seat belts and steering gears. And we're going to do it's going to be live. And he's got this amazing technician named Jace. And we're actually going to measure like a steering column and inspect a steering rack live, so everybody can see kind of how it's
that's
done.
Awesome. I love it.
We're going to talk about how they do it. So again, that's what it's doing. And, again, I'm only going to do it assuming that, it's worthwhile and people see value in it, right? Because I want to make sure that I give people value, and there's no cost to these. They can be viewed after the fact. And we also take questions. So like if people send questions in between the podcast, you can go online and you can submit questions. I answer those questions during the podcast. And then you can also ask live questions during the podcast. And Cheryl Driggers is my co-host. And then Cheryl Driggers and I we try to get to as many of the live questions as we can during the podcast. So we wanted to be we want to bring the topics to people that people are asking for, also to discuss some of the burning issues that's going on in the industry, some of the friction points, and again, just give value to the industry.
Yeah, that's another great idea, Mike. And it's something nobody else has done in this industry, to have it live like that and to have two-way conversations. And I think it's going to be great. I did watch the first one, at least a good portion of it.
Yeah, we weren't as polished as you, Rick. We had a lot of technical issues to kick it off. That's why if you go to the video, you probably want to fast forward about the 2-minute mark. We just weren't as polished as you, Rick. We probably should have had you helping us to do it.
Dude, I've got a team of 50 behind me putting all this. No, that's just me. So it's a lot of work, and it takes time. I've been at this since since COVID, right? So it takes a while, but you guys will do fantastic with that, I believe. You'll get to numbers that you won't believe, probably. So
again, we just want it to be valuable to the industry. If it's not, we'll pull the plug on it. But again, we want to also continue to shout out and recognize and support people like yourself as well there, Rick.
I appreciate that, Mike. I really do. Like you, I've got a great respect and desire to help this industry, because not everybody has had the experience I've had is seeing so many shops. I mean, I was in a lot of shops over my career, and I could see where the pain points were, and that was part of the reason why I started this in the first place, was maybe I can help address some of those pain points, right?
Yeah, and I know this is a podcast for Mikey Anderson, but I know you took on a new job in the last year, right? And
it's been just under a year.
Can you tell me a little bit about what you're doing now?
So, I was with FinishMaster and LKQ up until about March of last year, and I'd spent enough time in that part of the industry, and I've done everything I could do, and so we had a parting, and then I was looking for new opportunities. What else can I do? I'm the same age you are, Mike, but I'm a good 10, 15 years away from being done as far as I'm concerned, right? So I looked at a lot of opportunities within coaching, within working with shops or MSOs or working with distributors, in the equipment side, and I couldn't find the right fit. And then, Cole Strandberg, right? So I've made friends with him since I met him a couple of years ago as a podcaster. And he happened to know somebody at Garmat. Says, "Hey, I think they're looking for somebody over there. Let me connect you." And one thing led to another, and I'm now the national account manager for Garmat.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you very much. And it's wonderful. It's great people, great organization. It feels like a small company. It's got a great CEO that's running things and making great strides in their business and how they do things. And yeah, it's been a wonderful experience and great to be part of that organization. So
congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
They're lucky to have you, my brother.
Thanks, Mike. So listen, I know we're getting towards the time we need to start wrapping up here, but so your collision advice team has grown, because I was going to ask you about that, but you've already answered that. So you're up to 20 people now, and I got a feeling that's going to continue to grow a little bit more as you add more people in. Conferences and trade shows. You are the king of conferences and trade shows. You're at most all of them. But for those that don't normally attend, what are the key ones, and not to diss any of the ones that you don't mention, but what are probably the most key trade shows or conferences that someone should attend if they've never been to one in their market, and they go, man, I want to connect with some of these people from these companies and these guys like Mike Anderson, and where do I go for that, right? What are the best opportunities for that?
Wow. There's so many great ones.
I know.
Yeah, you can't, you have to start off with talking about SEMA, obviously, right?
Yeah.
The educational track that SCRS, Aaron Schulenberg and his board put on is just second to none. They every year I go there and there's just so many topics they talk about that I'm like, wow, where did that come from, right? So obviously SEMA, but I understand that everybody can take away from their work or afford to go to SEMA. So then you kind of go to the local trade associations, right? You have, ABAT, Jill Tuggle and her team down in Texas. They put on one of the best trade shows in the country. You have the Northeast Trade Show, again, one of the best in the country with Tom Greco and his team and Jerry and all the people at, the New Jersey Auto Body Association. Mariah Sampson out in Montana, they put on great meetings, right? Not necessarily trade shows, but quarterly meetings for their team. You have, as you said, you and I were both at AASPI. They had well over 100 people there. You got the Southeast Conference now. Josh Kent, oh my God, the Southeast Trade Show. I almost forgot that. My God, Jordan and Josh, forgive me. Southeast Trade Show is just growing. Every year it just gets bigger and bigger. And
I did that one a couple times. Actually, I'll be speaking at this one coming up.
Awesome. Yeah, the board they have there is second to none, right? Kyle Bradshaw and all the people on the board there, Brian Carroll, Brian Davies. Just an amazing, the Southeast Conference is just amazing. You have the Midwest Trade Show. I don't care where you live out in the United States, there is a local regional trade show. But I would be remiss if I also didn't just say, don't just think about just trade shows. Think about like CIC, you just sit at your shop and you just complain about things. Complaining doesn't make things get better. Going on social media, complaining doesn't make things better. Showing up at events like CIC or showing up at your local auto body association board meetings, right? That's how you really affect change. If you look at Rhode Island, has the highest severity, has the best laws in the entire United States. It's all because of the strength of their association and the board they have. So getting plugged in. And again, I want to make sure that if there's any trade associations or trade shows that I didn't speak of, I apologize. But there's so many, right, that we can speak about. But
I didn't mean to put you in a spot.
No. I'm just like my mind's going. I start thinking like, oh my God, I forgot about this one. I forgot about that one, right? You got the Kansas Auto Body Association. Gina Cotton. Gina Kenadakis. What they're doing out in Kansas. Then you got Gina Cotton with the Midwest. There's just so many wonderful events going on. And then you have local paint distributors that put on classes, like I think about Matthews. They're a BSF distributor in Pennsylvania. They got Benjamin Stevens. He's like an in-house estimator guru, right? Amazing guy. There's so many ways for shops to get plugged in today that didn't exist when I had my shops. Man, get plugged in, find something. Remember, stay humble, stay hungry. If you're hungry, you're going to go eat. And the way you go eat is by attending events. And yes, there are a lot of events virtual. And there's, Kristen Felder, she does a lot of virtual stuff that's pretty amazing, right? So, your podcast. So there's ways to get information. But it's like people used to tell me, they say, Mike, why do I need to go to church, right? Why do I need to go to church? I can watch church on TV. But you know what? That guy on TV that's preaching can't give you a hug. When you go to church in person, somebody can give you a hug. So there's a lot, there's something you can get at an in-person event that you can't get virtually. And that's just that in-person fellowship, right? And I just think people need to get out more. And I know it's hard to get away from your business, but what's that old saying? Even the lumberjack stops during the day to sharpen his saw. And I think we have to do that.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. And I couldn't agree more. And there is a lot of great trade shows out there. And like I said, I didn't ask a question to put you in a spot. Just
no, you're good. You're good.
I want to see what was top of mind for you, but I've been.
I just want everybody to feel the love, Rick. I just want everybody to feel the love, brother. Right?
Exactly. I know. But I'm glad you mentioned CIC because I was going to make sure I mentioned that because that is truly meetings of people that are trying to help this industry. It's not a trade show. There's no vendors that are trying to promote stuff. It's just really just a meeting of shops, and it seems to be growing.
And I got to tell you, I had never been to an SCRS open board meeting until the one they just had recently in January and in Palm Springs. And I went to it, and I got to tell you, I won't miss another one. The SRS open board meeting was phenomenal. I didn't realize what I always thought it was kind of closed, like you couldn't attend. And then I found out you can attend. You have an open part. Man, people need to attend that 100%.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to put links to all these events that I can in the show notes, and links to SCRS and CIC and SEMA and all those. There's so many good things to attend. And I also want to say that I'm in an area where there isn't really any trade associations. So I'm in a big state with a lot of collision shops and no association. I looked into starting something up myself, but it's like it's a task I can't take on right now.
Where do you live at, Rick?
I'm in Michigan.
Okay.
So a lot of there was East and West Michigan. At one point there was something on the West side, but I think that's kind of fizzled out. But the point is if you live in a state that doesn't have an association and you're friends with some of the other shops, start talking about it. Because you could put your own together and just start this process that could take you to, where Rhode Island's at now, with having, the power to change some legislation to get things better for the shop. So there's great power in numbers. That's for sure. So
I couldn't agree more, sir. Well said.
All right, Mike, I've taken up enough of your time this morning. It's always great to talk to you. I'm thankful you're here for my what will be my 200th episode, which is a big deal for me.
Huge deal. And congratulations.
Thank you very much. I'll be seeing you soon out there. So thanks again for being here, and have a great week.
Hey, I appreciate you, Rick. God bless you, brother.
Well, that's all I had for you today. Thanks again for tuning in. I really appreciate your support, and I hope you have a great week. I can always be reached at www.rickselover.com, where you can find all my social media links, podcast episodes, blog posts, and much more.
Mind race whispers truth so clear.